Just doing what I can to show you guys that appreciation. In the immortal words of the late Tupac Shakur, y'all appreciate it. Guys, it's the link. Let's jump right into the Zoom room here. I'm not sure how many of your interviews start with a Tupac quote, Jon Fernandez.
Right. More should.
I know,
start
right? Should be the norm.
Well, actually, literally, when the pandemic first started, like John had all eyes on him. So.
Yes.
Oh, Jay, I got it there. Huh? Well, I'm pretty sure John's got ambitions as a writer, but for now we're just gonna have to find out about his ambitions as a superintendent. John, good morning, and thanks for joining us this morning for a little catch up. Bree, where do you want to start?
Let's start with the meeting last Friday and your presentation on the plans for expansion and how it was received by the board.
Yeah, absolutely, and good job for keeping track, because I know there's so many things going on, and I did mention last time that we had a meeting we had a work session really on Friday, and as part of that work session, we really wanted to answer questions from the board about how we could move from where we were today to maximizing in-person instruction, heading into the next school year. And let me just say first that it's always been our goal, and it has to be our goal, to return our kids back to our schools. I mean, our school facilities, to get them back face to face with their teachers, so they can be engaged and they can be assisted, and they can get the support they need right at the school sites. And I think it's become even more urgent. I mean, that's always been our goal, but it's become more urgent. I think I had a hearing this week where Senator Frank Blas asked about, how are we going to address learning loss? I think, Sabrina, you asked the same question, and I have to just say, look, it's I think the key strategy is get the kids back in school. I mean, that's how you're going to assess them effectively. That's how you're going to keep them on track, provide interventions, provide supports, work with them individually, and so forth. It's like, and I likened it, and I hope it's not the wrong analogy, but I said it's like trying to fix your car. You can talk to the auto mechanic on the phone, but at some point you just need to bring the car to the shop. You have to, you need the kids there so we can see exactly what's going on, hear from them directly, and kind of get away as much as possible from trying to do everything through distance learning. It's tough, it's new, and it's not going to really it's not going to be the core of our strategy. Even though we want to see things like online learning continue, it's not going to be the way we get out of this pandemic and address the consequences. So that was, that's a key, and I think the board shares that vision. The second issue was that we presented all the numbers, and I think to start off with, we said, look, right now we offer 3 models of learning, and we are able to support all 3. But if you look at the number of face-to-face available slots, these are the slots that are in those existing cohorts that go to school once a week, and they alternate. We have a lot of seats that are still vacant. So I think, what that shows us is that parents are not yet all feeling comfortable about returning to school, or if they are, they're interested in just saying, hey, why don't we just, get through the year, and then we'll start again next school year, if they're, when we feel very confident that that's going to work for us. So we said, the first thing we have to do is reopen registration for students, and that's what we've done. And it's always been open. Parents have always been able to just register their kids and get on a waiting list, but we don't have any waiting lists anymore, as the schools have really accommodated those who are trying to go back to face-to-face. So parents who are interested in returning to face-to-face are still able and should continue to register at their schools, call their schools. You'll be given a registration form either online or if you pick one up at the school, you're able to do that as well. But go ahead and fill out that registration, even if it's past the start of the fourth quarter. Go ahead, and the schools will work to accommodate you. So that's the message out there for the parents. If you are ready to go back to face-to-face, we welcome you back. That'll tell us how many students will be in each of the different models of learning entering the fourth quarter. I think the other issue that we expressed to them is that there are the face-to-face students who want to go multiple days. That's going to really depend on the schools. So after we get through the initial registration, rush, once we get those numbers down, we're going to determine which schools have the ability to collapse their cohorts from 2 to 1, for instance, and have them come both days of the week, so we can start to multiply the amount of instructional time. I believe that we have most of our 41 schools who are able to do that, based on our current numbers, but there are a handful that may not be able to do that because they have a higher number of face-to-face students. So right now we're looking at the possibility of letting the schools go ahead and multiply the days of instruction for those face-to-face students, but we do have to be aware that not every school will be able to do that based on the number of students they have. And again, over the next week, we will sort out which schools those will be. And then the third issue is this: if we want to maximize instruction and we want to focus on instructional time, trying to do 3 models of learning is just not working. It's just too many things that the teachers have to do. They have to take their lessons. If they're working on all 3 models, take their lessons and translate them into 3 different models. One that they can deliver online, one that they can do face-to-face, and one that they have to write out and put into a hard copy packet. So we talked to the board. We said, look, we initiated all 3 models of learning to accommodate the situations of families that may not have the ability to go online, but who do not feel safe going back face-to-face. Now that we're in a safer position as a community, we have to make a determination about what direction we're headed. And it's pretty clear that the board wants to move back towards in-person instruction. So that's our priority. And as a backup, to keep online learning as the backup in case we go through another round of school closures. So that leaves hard copy out there, which, number one, has been very difficult logistically to handle. I mean, in terms of the preparation of lessons, the distribution, the completion, the collection, and then starting all over again. That's been one issue. The other issue is that academically speaking, that is the most challenging because of the fact that there's really limited, if any, teacher and student interaction. So for that reason, we recommended to the board that if we are going to maximize in-person instruction, we have to consolidate our 3 models into 2 models. Let us focus on in-person instruction. Let us focus on online. And for those who are on hard copy, which is probably about just a little bit less than 1/3 of our students, for those who are in hard copy, give them an option to transition into either face-to-face or online. Now, maybe a few months ago this wasn't possible, but I just got word earlier this week that the shipment of laptops that we've been waiting for to come on island have arrived. I don't have the numbers yet, but I mean there was a few thousand at least of new laptops that have arrived on island, so that we do have and are confident in the availability of the laptops. And then the second issue is that we're pretty close to the end of the waiting period for the internet project to be able to move forward. So after we go through the procurement process, there is a 14-day waiting period during which we come to a standstill and await any potential protests. But once that window goes by, then we're able to move forward. So I don't know, I forget the exact date, but we're close to the end of that period, probably at the end of this week. And then, and that gives us the confidence that if you are currently in hard copy and you don't have the ability right now to go online because you don't have a laptop or you don't have internet access, that will be taken care of. And we'll be able to get you the internet access and the laptop. So if you don't feel comfortable coming back face to face, then we can help you transition online. So the board meets on Tuesday to take action to give us, we hope to give us their support in moving in this direction. And then what we plan to do is, if that's the case, we can use fourth quarter as a transition period to get more face-to-face students on, to multiply the days of instruction where it's possible, and to start to transition students to get them ready for either face-to-face instruction in August or to move online. If you're going to move online, we're going to go ahead and want to get you started during the fourth quarter. That doesn't mean that you have to just completely forego your hard copy. The hard copy model will continue to provide those materials, but we do want you to, if as early as possible, to get that laptop in your hands, to get used to it, to learn how to log in, to learn how to access your materials, so that when it comes to August, we're not starting out by distributing laptops and starting to do a lot of training. So we can use the fourth quarter to transition students who don't want to go face-to-face, who want to go online. That'll give us a good opportunity to get them ready to go when we hit the summer and when the first quarter begins. So that's kind of the overall gist of our meeting. I think they were very pleased to see that we weren't just coming with a recommendation. We dove down into all the numbers, and we ran the numbers at every school, and we were able to show them, where we were, what the different schools looked like from the standpoint of their enrollment. And with that, on Tuesday, we hope that they will give their support so that we can move forward all on the same page and begin letting our community start to make the transition that's necessary.
Mm-hmm. What about the discussions regarding, as you guys try to expand and with face-to-face, what about discussions on the 6 feet social distancing so that you could fit more students into the classroom? I think you were.
So that is a challenge that we're not really up against the 6 feet, the 6 foot distancing issue yet.
Okay.
But we're not at a max capacity yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we still have room to accept face-to-face students before we hit that.
Okay.
But at some point, you're right. With 6 foot distancing, that'll limit our ability to go 100%, back to face-to-face. So, that discussion just has to continue with the public health and our doctors and our lieutenant governor who we meet with on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. It just has to continue, and to see whether we'll get into a position where we'll be able to adjust that distancing measure at all, or whether we have to start looking at expanded capacity at the schools. But that's really a difficult one to tackle, to try to expand capacity. People have talked about, well, you can open up additional classrooms and use the cafeteria and do a lot of different things that you could physically do to a facility. The problem is we don't have an overflowing number of teachers. So you might have 3 rooms, but if I have 1 teacher for that class, we have to figure out how they're going to effectively, address all students. So again, we're going to have to work through that. I heard Dr. Hoa earlier this week talk about the promise of, vaccinations being a way for us to get back to more normal interaction. I'm going to want to talk to them about, whether that will impact the distancing requirement and give us an opportunity to bring more students back to school. So, a lot of things that we hope we can work out over the summer, but right now we're planning on the 6 foot distancing being in place. And that means that we'll still have to go to at least two models of learning, and we're planning for online and in person.
Is there any update on the education stabilization funds and the plan? I'm not sure if it was submitted to USDOE yet.
So by next week, we should be able to have a more public final numbers, I guess. I just received a draft last night to review before we submit to USDOE. So, and again, I've been really hesitant to talk specifics about numbers, because even at the last stages, we were working with special education division, we were working with our private, nonprofit schools to try to solidify, make sure that what they were requesting was in and budgeted appropriately and so forth. So a lot of work in the, on those details. But I have a draft that I'll be reviewing today, and then I'll have a better opportunity to brief our board and to brief the general public as to the amounts and the types of supports that ESF2 will be used for. Again, to focus us on trying to get trying to get our kids back to school. That's really been the focus. I think, the ESF1 was safety, get the supplies for, PPEs in, get distance learning going so the kids don't have to be at school and so forth. But now we know that the solution is really going to hinge upon getting as many kids back to school as possible. So we have a focus, in this next round on trying to get our schools, situations addressed in terms of the facilities. So whether that means, the restroom sanitizations, more hand washing and bottle filling stations, shields for the teachers and students, you know, canopy repairs to ensure that we have space for the kids to be able to, you know, to be outside with the physical distancing. So those are some of the items that will be in the proposal. But again, we'll finalize that this week, and we'll be able to share more, you know, later this week or beginning of next week.
Okay. We have a question from one of our online viewers. Is GDOE going to have the national placement test that determines each student's learning level? I'm talking about the test that's given at the end of each school year.
So we are working to do that. Again, you know, we have a transition at the U.S. Department of Education, and the implementation of our district-wide assessment is federally required as part of our receipt of federal grants from U.S. DOE. So while we were able to waive some of the locally required assessments, the English language arts and math assessments that are required by US Ed are still required. They haven't given us any guidance to go without implementation of the assessments. Now we just got a recent communication from US DOE, and I'm having our curriculum division go over and advise me on this, which understands that there is a pandemic going on, and that it might not be, not all states might be able to safely conduct the assessment for all students. So there are some flexibilities that are being considered, which might lead to the inability to assess every student. What I mean by that is, right now we know that we can probably assess all of our face-to-face students. For those students who are not at school, we have to consider, what we can do to address them. And if not, this might be the year where we're not able to assess all students. I just think that USDOE does want to see some type of assessment in order to gauge the impact of COVID-19, but recognizing that there's still many states who are in difficult situations with the pandemic. They are not in the position of requiring us to bring kids back to the school facilities to do the assessment. So we're working through those details, but I think right now the answer is yes, the assessments are still required. We'll provide more information as to who will be assessed this year and how that will be conducted.
John, we did have a viewer concern here, and this is kind of relative to the return to normal with PCOR 3 and gate testing done at the school sites. Are we back to normal with that, or are there still some issues with the protocols or whatever?
Yeah, so we did receive concern about gate testing being held at the schools, and usually, for gate testing, they usually is school-based, and then we do have a special education pre-gate testing, which my understanding has always been held at our headquarters. And so I think we had a concern about bringing the kids over to Tizen for testing when it should be done in the school sites. But my understanding is that our curriculum and instruction division has been trying to find ways to accommodate those requests. And so I think for any parents who are out there who have questions, we're going to urge to try to get that communication going with the curriculum division. And so I'm happy to pass that on if you have any information you want to kind of forward it my way.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that's it.
Was there anything else?
Well, the other thing I just wanted to kind of point out is, as we get back to normal, I'm just going to have to express my concern. And, we just had 2 major accidents at the Santa Monica Avenue, I guess. Is that the right road? Right out there yesterday in front of Weddingale Elementary, and then, a couple of weeks back at Benevente Middle School, the same strip. And, as we start to return more students back to school, I'm going to just ask, the support of the community and our agencies to make sure that traffic rules and, people driving are, just really extra cautious. We're lucky not to have any students out. We did have employees who were involved in one of the accidents, but, just to have 2 accidents taking place, two pretty horrific accidents taking place within a narrow time span on the same street. So I talked to Mayor Savaras, and we're going to talk with DPW and see what we can do. But I just urge everybody to be extra careful now that school is back. We're not fully back, but when you see buses and kids out there, it just concerns me when we see these kinds of accidents happening so close to our schools.
Mm-hmm.
So, we can get the message out there. I appreciate that.
Okay. I actually did have one more question, and it's related to the State of the Island address.
Sure.
Number one, did you have a reaction to it? And number two, the governor did mention Simon Sanchez High School.
Yeah, the governor has been very supportive of GDOE, and what I mean by that is that one of our biggest issues has always been funding, and the funding that was appropriated, they've been getting it out to us as scheduled, as we need it. And I think we have one concern about whether the property taxes will come in, because some of our budget is predicated on property taxes. But for the most part, we haven't had the need to go back to the administrations and beg them to release our funds. They've been pretty good about that. But there's a lot going on, though, that is under, behind the scenes, and a lot of work that I'm doing with the Lieutenant Governor that's really helped us get through this pandemic in terms of the community response, the partnerships, and the strategy for returning to school so that our community can recover as a whole. So, I know she didn't mention a lot of that, but a lot of those people she talked about as frontliners, a lot of the issues she's talking about the economy recovering, that hinges on the ability to get schools open as well. So, we're thankful that she trusts us and enables us to work directly with the agencies and with Lieutenant Governor, because we really, I think we're strong and we're capable, and, we don't attract a lot of attention when things are working right. So, I like that part of it. And as far as facilities goes, Simon Sanchez is moving forward. Later this month, we should have a public meeting to let the public know and be able to see where we are with the design. But we're also working on the master facilities plan that we also will be more public. This next month will be more public engagement around that plan as well. So I'm glad to know that she is paying attention to getting Simon Sanchez done, because that is our shared goal. Get Simon Sanchez done, but we have so many others facilities that are going to be next in line. So we're working with them to get the master facilities plan done. We're going to share that with the governor and her team, hopefully in the next week or so. And then, when that master plan is done later this year, hopefully we can talk about, what's next for the improvement of the school facilities. So we're very glad. So I think later in March, Governor, we're going to, be able to share where we are. 30% of the design should be done. And, that's going to be, excellent to let our people know that, a lot of planning goes on behind the scenes, but there will be visual rendering of what, we see coming in the future. And we're looking forward to getting that done.
All right. Thanks a lot, John.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you,
John,
Sabrina.
sorry, real quick. We got a message. Is Power School down?
I have to check my text messages to see. I wasn't aware of it, but I know that sometimes we do have that issue. And so
Right.
If so, I know our tech guys are working on it.
All right.
Okay, appreciate it, John.
We'll let you go
All right.
back to listening to Tupac.
Yeah. We're going to
Thank
find
you.
out if the governor's a Tupac fan next. Okay.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Hey, viewers on KUAM TV, jump on to our Facebook Live feed or right here on the radio. There's also a Docomo Channel 10 audio stream as we're getting ready to go in with Governor Lulia Guerrero right here on the link. On the radio side, that's part of our multimedia broadcast.